Hello and welcome to episode 480 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Now today's episode is absolutely huge. I'm joined by an absolute legend. Today, I'm joined by Melissa Auf der Maur. Yes, the bass player from Hole, the bass player from Smashing Pumpkins, joins me today and we get deep. We talk all about music. We talk all about her career to date and we focus on her brand new book, which is out now, called Even the Good Girls Will Cry. Now, before I go any further and tell you any more about this episode, let's do what we always do on Mark and Me and quickly touch base about my last episode. It was only a few days ago and I was joined by the amazing Good Kid. Thank you so much to each and every one of you who took the time to listen, to the band that shared it and the members of the band that took the time also to share it. It did wonderfully. I loved all the new listeners, all the new comments, and it really meant the world. But today, my God, this is a dream episode for me. Melissa is absolutely fantastic. I was lucky enough as well to go up to Manchester to see her book signing and her Q&A, her brief talk as well about the book, and it was just a wonderful evening. I was lucky enough to hang out with Melissa. She is absolutely wonderful, such a beautiful soul, and just a great, great human being, and has been so kind, and you'll hear it all on the interview coming up. So what I think I should do now, guys, to kind of get straight to it, is give you this episode, because it's, for me, one of my favourite I've ever done, and I don't say that lightly. Here is me and Melissa talking all things music.
Oh, make me over. I'm all I wanna be. A walking study in demonology.
Lovely. Well, obviously what I'd love to do before we get into it is thank you for your time and coming on the Mark and Me podcast, because I'm a huge fan of yours. The book is absolutely incredible. We'll talk about that, but just before anything, thank you for taking the time to come on today. It means a lot.
That is very nice. Is that your proper English practice for everything you do?
No. I just I
Must
recognize
be.
how busy you are, and I follow you on
Oh,
Instagram, and I think to myself, this person is very, very busy and all around the place promoting and on TV and doing lives and all the different stuff that comes with promotion. And I just think if I can have a little slice of that, then I'm very grateful for it.
oh, great. You're very welcome. I'm happy to be sitting at the sea. I am seeing the sea from this bed in a
I'm jealous.
hotel.
I should have just come to do the interview in person, because
I can't tell you how disappointed I was. I just said to my friend who was helping me, I said, I am doing Zoom with a human in England when I could be speaking to them. And she said, well, maybe it was too hard to rush people around. And I said, maybe, but I'd rather be.
Well,
Anyway,
weirdly, I was going to come to Manchester tomorrow for your book signing in Waterstones and
yeah,
your talk, so we could have done it then. But never mind.
yeah.
Let's go with what
Okay.
we've got.
Do you usually do your interviews on this?
I do, because most of the guests I speak to are all across the
Okay.
pond. So I've had Anthony Hopkins, Mads Mikkelsen, Kevin Smith, Aubrey
Ooh,
Plaza,
cool. Fun.
Deftones, but none of them are here. So I have to make best
Okay.
of,
I like the idea of Deftones and Matt Mikkelsen. That's a good
yeah.
combo. He should be in one of their videos. Okay. What are we doing?
What I do with every guest that comes on, I'm nearly at episode 500. So what I do with every guest is I love it, even if you're a film director, an artist, a writer, a musician. I'm always intrigued when you're growing up, and it might be a guilty pleasure, it might be something you don't want to kind of disclose already, but the first album that you remember being given or you bought with your own pocket money, that
hmm
first one.
Oh yeah, nothing embarrassing about Head on the Door by The Cure.
Oh,
My own money.
wow.
My own money.
Was this like a part-time job that you would just be getting like a couple of dollars a week and you'd have to save up and be like, I need to listen to this album and fall in love with
Yeah.
it because it's cost me weeks of...
I started working as early as one could ever be allowed to work, so I could have freedom with things. I was a newspaper delivery
That's
girl.
what I did, yeah.
Yeah, that was my first job. Then doing laundry at a squash club. I mean, so many bad jobs, but I remember being in Paris with my father on one of my summer expeditions with him. But I 13, whatever. I've looked a few times. Head on the Door came out, I think, when I was 13. I got to see them that same year on the tour.
My
And
God.
yeah, I remember like holding the money in my hand that had been changed into francs, I guess, at the time, and buying my own record and flying all the way home with them.
So you're going to now tell me, because what I normally do is follow this up with my first gig. So I'm 44. So my first ever gig, my parents dropped me off and I got to see Green Day on their Dookie tour. So
Cute.
it's pretty magical. I came home and was like, I'm going to buy some hair dye and buy a guitar and stand in the mirror and hope I'm Billy Joe Armstrong. But
Mhm.
please don't tell me your first ever gig was The Cure.
My first ever gig was The Cure
Oh
on
my
the door.
God.
Forever cool, they will be. And
Wow.
that's when I knew that knew where I belonged because I went with my friend Alice, who lives in the UK. Her parents were Brighton mods against the rockers, and I was
Nice.
raised like with her parents' musical influence. And we scored the tickets, which probably our parents bought, but we got to go with her stoner uncle.
Oh,
Uncle
wow.
Paul brought us, meaning there was not the weird dependent like the parent overseeing, and we just
Yeah.
said, "Oh, we'll just be down there." And we went into the crowd, and I just remember being on the floor on the Cure with the Cure and the people in black, but they're beautiful, like sweet, sensitive hearts, and me knowing like these are the people I trust. These are the
Incredible.
people I've been looking for. Yeah. So,
Wow. So nearly 500 episodes in, I've never had anyone that saw The Cure for their first show. Everyone's always like, that would be the dream. Like Chino from Deftones was like, that would
yeah.
be the ultimate. Like that's what you aim to try and
Well,
get to.
can I say that was the first show I went alone? The first show
Yeah.
I went to with my mother supervising was Cyndi Lauper.
I mean,
But
that's still absolutely awesome.
yeah, I mean, I think I grew up in an awesome time of music.
Yeah.
Obviously, the 80s was I mean, there's not one guilty pleasure I have in the 80s other than, and only in the UK would people care. And it's not even a guilty pleasure. I still swear by my love of Rick Astley. I was just like, that's
Hey,
okay.
I
I
watched
am
his set
loving
when
Rick Astley.
he did a Glastonbury set where he did all Smiths covers and he was phenomenal.
Incredible. Oh, he's so talented. I could tell at the time.
Yeah.
I only liked him because it was like a redhead role model. I had none, and he kind of looked like a boy version of me because I was so androgynous and I was mistaken for a boy. So I liked him for a seeking of someone who seemed kind and talented and maybe even shy and a redhead who was popular. And I stood in line outside of a London HMV in the rain one summer trying to get his autograph and got there as they closed the door. But I
Oh,
had a giant Rick Astley poster on my wall next to The Cure, The Velvet Underground. Like I only ever liked cool shit, and Rick Astley was the only guilty pleasure where I just said, you know what? I'm keeping this person on the
no,
wall
I
with
think he belongs in that Mount Rushmore of those incredible
great,
artists. Yeah.
great. Okay, great.
So what I normally do on this podcast is I talk about growing up and then the time you joined Hold and all this. But what I want to focus on today, because our time's limited, is the book itself. I've been really lucky enough to read an advanced copy before it came out in the UK. I absolutely felt it was so immersive. And the first thing I thought, if I ever got to sit down and talk to you, was when you started writing the book itself, were you at that point trying to document the 90s or were you using the book as a way to kind of understand yourself?
It's definitely, I mean, I'm happy to contribute, the the macro is I want to contribute to culture, in particular women in art, in particular women in music, in particular music at large, in particular counterculture, emerging out of my parents' generation who were pioneers of that time. No, but the micro 100% was healing. A
Yeah,
hundred percent was grieving what I personally lost as and using my story as a lens for a collective loss and a collective mourning and a collective understanding
yeah,
of what is at stake and what we witnessed our generation and what broke my heart and why I ended the book on the roof of the Chelsea Hotel watching the towers fall in 2001
yeah,
because I understood that was it. Okay, well, it's the end of the world as we know it. Now what do we do? And I've been trying to, for 25 years, understand that. And my quarter of a century later offering is both a personal healing grieving journey,
Yeah.
using my lens for you to learn what I saw in the 90s, but also using my personal healing to try to help the collective pain of the end of the world as we know it.
And what I want to make sure I do over the next hour is not ruin it for people. I don't want to suddenly talk about big
Yeah,
moments because that's
I
not
like
fair. I
that
think that's
idea too.
cruel.
I was actually upset at the Guardian, who they're my
Ugh.
favorite. They're my favorite. They're my news source, the Guardian, and they're the only one that gave the spoiler
Yeah.
of my father's death. And I was actually I, I was taken by surprise. I was shocked actually that that was the opening line of the story. And I realized then I had, it's already hard enough to be revealing the deepest, saddest parts of my life, but I didn't actually expect it to come in. Like I was more expecting everyone to be exploiting Kurt, Courtney, Nirvana, Dave Grohl,
Yeah.
orgasms, drugs, death. I thought, but to be very honest, in general, the reception of the book, North America and the UK, hasn't trickled elsewhere yet as
No.
much, is unbelievable in that it is the story of the redhead Canadian bass player, Good Girl. It's not actually about these giant other people that I lived in the shadows of. And that has been, for me, I the gift of believing, like my parents who fought in the 60s for the underdog, that the underdog actually will have their moment. And it's not that I am a victim of anything. I loved the world and life I had, but it's actually amazing that people other than the Sunday Times
Yeah.
that put like Kurt, Courtney, Dave Grohl on the top, but that was the exclusive my words. They had the Sunday Times had the exclusive excerpt of my book. So I was given, an amazing amount of place space in
Yeah.
your major newspaper in my words, but they did had to trickle the top with just like the most famous people in the book. That's fine, but it's an those are the only two like sort of surprised but not surprised because of course headlines, clickbait, that type of thing. But the Guardian, I actually what I like about the ballsiness of them spoiling that was that it was actually about not about the famous people, but about the moment that changed my life as a woman losing her father. So
Yeah.
it's, both, but so yes, please don't
I'm
give
keeping this
spoilers.
nice spoiler
Yeah,
free. And
yes, great.
my first, obviously, when you've talked about what you were trying to capture and the healing, did
Yeah.
anything really surprise you once you started putting it all together? And obviously, to try and capture it in one book at
Hmm.
that moment, was there stuff that was really kind of
Well,
making you
yeah,
look at the moments differently or how you remembered things
yes.
differently?
Yeah, 90% of the book was downloaded from pretty much memory, but also within the sort of lens I always had, because I had been so self-reflective and journal keeping, photography, everything was documented so deeply. And even though I never referred to my epic journals or epic photo archive, I remembered it. It's like the way that memory works. It burned into me. So most of the book wasn't surprising, was exactly, I got to tell it exactly as I lived it, as I perceived it, and I got to download it like a waterfall from the cosmos. Totally easy. But the two areas that were surprising and difficult and hard to fabricate was my father's death and
Yeah.
the complex relationship with Courtney. So
Yeah.
the two biggest protagonists in the book are my father and Courtney, and the death of my father, yeah, that was more that I had been wearing blinders for 20 years, so I didn't want to but so when I took the blinders off, it was difficult to unpack, and I had much healing and crying and difficulty, and my amazing editor really just sort of like helped me grieve in a way that friends and family hadn't allowed me to do because of the way that I processed that by tucking it away and hiding it. The Courtney relationship was the most illuminating, and I do I think a good job in the book where I tell her story and our story through my lens until the end, and I give her the floor, and I print those two letters she wrote.
Yeah.
And those two letters to that I had miraculously saved in their fading fax formation and then scanned and transcribed right before they disappeared to the ether, they hit me in unexpected ways. And that's when I realized, and luckily in my relationship with Courtney, we had already been rekindling after over 15 years of not speaking at all. So by the time I was writing the book, I had been in a brand new blossoming refriending of her. And the fact that I got,
How surreal that timing. Wow.
yeah, and the fact that I found these letters while writing the book, and I actually it reinforced what I was already set to tell readers is she's a noble, brilliant creature.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate just because they destroyed her for 20 years in the media. Don't, so I was so excited that I was going to do that anyway. But then by finding these letters and transcribing them for others to read, I prove it and I give her, I empower her to tell the story. And I recently reshared those letters with her because she also has gone through hell and back since then.
Yeah.
She might not have remembered writing them, and it's been really moving to get closer to each other through these letters that she wrote me in really high volatile times at the peak of our on the cover of every magazine, millions of dollars going into all of the promotion and the touring. So at the peak of that, she wrote me a beauty manifesto letter, and then the letter to me responding to my quitting hole. So
Yeah.
those two letters are wow. I learned a lot about myself, about what she knew about me when I didn't know that. And I was pretty self-assured and pretty clear, thought that I knew I certainly wasn't trusting the people around me to know me better than because I was ejecting myself from what I thought was a very dangerous world, which it was. So being able to have her redeemed even in my own eyes, let alone your eyes,
Yeah.
was very cool. Yeah.
What I got from reading it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the feeling I got from being inside your head while reading is that you seem really calm in chaos. And I wondered, has that always been you? Do you think that came from your upbringing, or was it
Hmm?
something that you learned, or is it just your instinct? Because it didn't feel like it ever really cracked. You were always able to keep that distance. And I was
Yeah.
like really proud of you through the book. Like you're always keeping this steady head and this absolute calm mindset when
Yeah.
everything is chaos around you.
Yeah. I mean, I think I say in the book, and I've always said it, I love the mystery of innate versus nurture. What do you
Yeah,
come into this world as? I believe that you do come in programmed DNA wise, but also your 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 antenna to things beyond this life and beyond yourself and beyond this planet, even. Some people might call me a star seed, people who linger from other dimensions, is that I have always felt very calm around the wild and very detached in one way. And I've had struggled with this in my life, detached from the human condition. And yes, say you're brought into the world like that, but then your upbringing, the wild, wonderful chaos of my single mother and world traveler, traveling by the age of 2, telling people that I lived in a circus caravan in Wales and a hut with monkeys in Africa and a British post office truck in Morocco by the age of 2, usually will sort of in one sentence say, why, how could I have been so level, yeah, comfortable on the road? I'm very
yeah,
comfortable on the road. And then that was my wild mother. And then my father just comes from a lineage of something epic and out of the norm 1,000-year-old Swiss family that were the most eccentric people I know. And then when I discovered later in life that Swiss people are actually quite calm, my Auf der Maur family are maniacs in the
yeah.
best way, but just total madness and total visionary freakiness. So I guess the DNA of them and growing up and the family holidays with them, yeah, chaos is comfortable for me, and it's a good thing too because look at the world we live in.
I can't. I just before I jumped on this for the listeners out there, you were slightly delayed because of technology, and I was looking at your Instagram stories, and I was like, "Ugh, is this real?" Like that. Obviously I don't use this podcast to get too political, but it's just terrifying. And I was looking at your stories, and you were saying, obviously referring to what's going on right now in real time for the listeners, that Donald Trump is just absolutely like this. There's no words, and the world is just going to absolute shit right in front of us. And I was just thinking
Mm.
it's more chaotic now than even the times I want to try and talk about in the book, you know?
Yeah, and what's so strange, well, exactly, but with the problem slash benefit of the book is I saw it coming. Our generation saw this coming. The writing
Yeah,
was on the wall. We saw the corporate creeps take over everything. We saw that first election being stolen.
yeah,
We saw the war raged after 9/11, pitting the enemies of the state, this whole psychotic. We saw all this coming, and we had only had lived a blip of kind of golden Clinton years for a second. But
yeah,
let's remember what the Reagan and Thatcher administration was prior. So we had lived in this blip of a little utopia of perhaps there's progress. We lived in the illusion that things were getting better, but we knew better because our generation in particular, even though while the mainstream was like Sex in the City, women power, all this, cool, so great, we watched the corporate bottom line descend on our very souls and suck the magic out of our absolute diehard communities and sell them as Coca-Cola. And most of the people who were mined and sold did not survive. They killed themselves. They died of drug addiction. It was the most disheartening, like the loss of enchantment around our powerful, powerful music scene that captured the world.
yeah.
A powerful group of fucked up, cool, poetic punks captured a whole generation because we were telling the truth. We were fucking warning and mourning all at the same time, saying, wow, watch out, people. Like, this is, I mean, we watched it happen, and like a big reason, personal again, but giant cultural. My book is an apology to my daughter that we witnessed this happen and we could not stop it. All I could do is save myself. I didn't know what else to do. I couldn't stop the ghost male drummer coming in and kicking the girl off the record and destroying her life. I couldn't stop the machine of the music industry that was feeding millions into our band to be the biggest girl rock band ever. But then I couldn't stop Courtney from being seduced by the Hollywood film world and drop the band that she had spent all this time building up. Like I could not stop it. And so what I want, and if there's anyone that could have, I was right there, and I'm a diplomatic, intelligent person, but all I got to do was witness it. And then 25 years later say, could have told you this. We saw this coming. But all what did I do? I started when I stopped making music, I scaled my life down to a local reality, founded an art center 15 years ago so I could create a corner of the universe as something that I believe in,
Yeah.
something where the artists have the power to decide what the economy is going to be. So that was my response, is just make my life work. Make my life work, be able to love, be able to nurture, and be able to give a community something that's valuable, which is art,
Yeah.
community, music, all of that. And so that was my response to the 90s. But then once I did that, I realized, wait, but I have to put my story back out there because I actually want to talk about this on a global scale because this is terrifying where we have ended up. Yeah.
That environment that you're describing, obviously the day to day. Let's talk about like when you actually joined Whole and the era itself. Hearing you talk here now, does that era feel at all romantic, or is it pure survival? Was there actually anything magical? Because
Yes.
you
So
know,
magical.
yeah,
So magical. Look at that music. I don't care how much death, drugs, and pain and innocence loss happen. The combination of me being, let's call me a sensitive starseed. Who the hell knows? I come into the world, I'm very, very sensitive, so shy I can't speak until I'm basically in a rock band in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I'm so shy. Music is my only bridge into the world. So my generation, like right as 1991 happened and everything broke and everything was like we saw this sort of like wave of a generation that had something to say that was going to capture, and nobody sounded the same, and everybody was original, and everybody was unafraid, and girls didn't wear makeup, and boys wore dresses. It was the fucking coolest time in the world.
I'm sitting here like, ah,
It's the coolest time in the world. I mean,
yeah,
so I both am this. nostalgia is the wrong word because in love with life more than I ever have been because I feel my role to be so much more urgent and necessary now is that I love life. I love music. I believe that music can save you and bring you to meaning and connect you with the universe and
Beautifully
friendship
said. Yeah.
that friendships made through music are like God, right? So all of these reasons is why I'm out here now is that yes, I want to tell people about a time when it was easier to find that,
Yeah.
but we still are humans and we could have that again. Yes, the corporate tentacles, yes, the techno algorithms, the evils, raging war and mining our time are there, but it is our job, like ancestors from ancient civilizations, to sit around campfires, even if it's a Zoom, to talk about the stories of the past
Yeah.
so we can continue to keep the way that we lived alive.
I feel like the mention then of the pressure of the kind of mindset of what I suppose musicians refer to, or even artists now, of selling out.
Yeah.
That decision at the time, was that pressure coming, do you believe, from the fans, the peers, or internally? Because,
No, internally, we knew because it's that weird Thatcher Reagan.
yeah,
We had we were carrying the torch of our parents, the counterculture 60s and 70s that said actually marriage, churches, schools. You're not going to tell me who I am. I'm going to figure out on my own who I am. So our parents did that break, and my parents were right lock and step, coolest pioneering. Mother chooses to be a single mother. Father basically takes on the government of Montreal to fight for the people, including the inmates, the drug dealer, and the nuns, all of them. He
yeah.
wants to represent everybody. He's just not going to let the elected official get corrupted and ruin our lives or use our taxpayer money for a crazy thing called the $1 billion game. The only book my father ever wrote was about the Olympics and about breaking the code of, by the way, your tax dollars are being exploited so that the King of England or some crazy thing can like build like a horse track for him
Oh,
and his
God, it's
friends.
so
It's
fucking
all real
real.
stuff.
Yeah.
But so I was already aware of that. Embedded with that knowledge of my parents stood up to something for a reason. Just like America is embedded with, hey, we stood up to the kings and queens a while ago. Wow, haven't we gotten ourselves out of this before? So all these cycles, so our generation was cycling through an intelligent awareness that the corporate greed of the 80s was threatening the individuality and authenticity of the 60s and 70s. And then we were carrying that torch, and then we could not, we got swallowed up too. And this is like what the cycle we're trying to, break slash how do we survive this? I don't know. I mean, I do have some ideas, but we're not going to talk about
Yeah. I mean,
that today.
listening to you right there, and I don't prep questions because I love the conversation to flow naturally. If I sit here with a piece of paper, it's never going to naturally flow because I think what you're telling me right here is like I'm trying to put my kind of thinking hat on and thinking, do you think that like being an observer protected you, or did it make you feel completely disconnected?
No, it protected me and gave me perspective.
Yeah.
And what's cool is that because, I have a companion book to this coming out in September, my
I
photography book.
can't wait for that. I heard you talk about it on your live story about the book, and you were
Yeah.
talking about it, and I was like, "When's that coming out?" You're like, "This year." I was like, "Oh my
Yeah,
God!"
6 months to the day. It's a 6 month. So as soon as I sort
Oh,
of wrap this up,
wonderful.
and it comes in tandem with a photo exhibit that opens at a big museum in Toronto in September, and then it will be touring. And in fact, you heard it here first. I'm meeting with the Photographers Gallery in London on
Ooh,
Friday to see if they'll take the exhibit. But we're looking for homes all over the world because my commitment is to go on tour with this conversation and with as many formats as possible. Photography,
yeah,
words, music, if I ever get there again, whatever it is, I've got to just bring this conversation forward at all times. And my photo book and archiving my 15,000 photographs because I was a photographer that got hijacked by,
15,000.
oh, I have the freak audience I ever played. I photographed in honor of the crowd every photograph I ever played. and
That's
backstage
incredible.
and the hotel and the in between bits and Danny DeVito and Adam Sandler, every person I met. So as I was writing my memoir, I was scanning and archiving my photo negatives, and that count is when I ended up realizing that I could find a very incredible, companion project. I always knew that I wanted to have a photo book and a photo exhibit, but I kept on waiting for the time being right. And obviously, the memoir is the mission statement of what my lens was, and then the photos is the visceral, visual companion piece. And in that, I have reflected a lot on my camera. Like,
Yeah.
why was I taking pictures every single day? One is a tourist in my own life because I was a kind of outsider, insider in these bands. I was replacing other people. So, replacing bass players, coming in after incredible records were being made. So, I was a tourist in my own bands. I was a tourist in life because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of everything first. Everything that ever happened to me in music is because I'm a fan.
And
I
that's so
talk,
apparent in the book. You can
yeah.
even, you are a genuine fan and lover of the art. It's not like, oh, I'm going to do this just to make money or just to
Oh,
have a
no,
job. You are
definitely not.
you are doing
I
it
don't
for
do,
the love.
I don't do anything for money. No way.
No,
Never do that. I mean, you have to. And I did have to start a wedding business in my art center back home so that we could support the arts and have our daughter go to a Waldorf school. So I know when I can tip something that I believe in into making a living. Uh, But the fan component and allowing me the outsider, the camera, which I refer to in the book as my shield between
yeah,
the world, I've discovered that the documenting of everything gave me a very, and a journal, I've been keeping a journal since I was 9, the constant sort of reflecting inside, outside, turning the thing around, observing, like in like the self reflection that's so who I am, I think is what protected me. Because, when you have a maniac drug addict in your life, what's the stupid people going to do? Like the people who burned Courtney at the stake, they're going to be like, "Oh, she's a witch." What does a smart, reflective person do? Huh, she must have had a pretty rough childhood. Oh, wow. Is it possible that her mean mother might have also had a horrible grandmother? Oh, is it possible? Oh, then you discovered that it's
explore, get
three
deeper. Yeah,
generation of not of motherless daughters. Perhaps that is why this woman is screaming at the top of her lungs and selling her body and throwing it into the fucking crowd.
yeah.
Maybe there's a reason why. I was just thinking though in the hell of today's news of the US, there's only one person on the planet that I cannot find any angle for why that person could be so evil. I don't care how much his mother didn't love him. I cannot accept
It's beyond that.
certain kinds
Yeah,
of evil.
there's
That
no.
he's dark, he's actual dark wizard magic. That is a tentacle. Something has happened to the United States of America where I think that the actual dark forces of the universe is running through that building. I
Yeah,
actually believe. I don't know if you've seen South Park lately.
I've not watched it for years, but
Oh my God!
I've
They're doing live in this administration. Oh
insane how
my
quickly
God!
they turn stuff around. I need to get on it.
You
Yeah,
better watch this. I
I
will.
give you my word. I'll
Is
watch
there,
it.
can I say fuck on this or
You
not?
can say fuck shit,
Okay,
whatever you
so
want.
no, so I don't want to say the blip of the name of the person, but so the gross orange pile that is occupying the White House, he in South Park is fucking Satan. It is incredible.
I've
And it
seen pictures
goes,
on Instagram where they're in bed together,
oh,
and
you gotta, and
yeah,
it's
I need
just
to
like
watch them.
it's just incredible. But so I actually truly believe there is no doubt in my mind that there is a dark and evil universal energy that is running through individuals in certain countries. There is no other explanation. Because you, me, generally, I actually think people are good. I've traveled around the world and played for millions of people at this point, and they are good.
They really
Most
are.
people are good. This is not normal. This is like that, the Voldemort thing, and then they contaminates the thing, and then all of a sudden you have like a, a weird cult of evil. This is not what people are. We're better than that.
I don't want to give that orange fuckwit any more time on this episode. So,
Well,
what I
mainly we're giving the goodness of
yes,
ourselves time on this episode. Being a fan, protecting yourself by being self-reflective is what saved me in the difficult parts of the 90s, but the magical parts of the 90s, the magic of our people, the survivors, the people who like would have been dead if they didn't have music, those people was the magic potion of the 90s. Yeah.
You've talked a little bit, and the death that surrounded you was horrific, and the amount that you had to go through. And obviously, surely that would have changed your relationship with music itself.
Yes.
But one thing I was really curious about is from those the amount of death you've had to process in a short space of time and everything that happened around you is absolute chaotic and horrendous, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. But did it make it all then feel more urgent for you, or did it make you feel more fragile?
Never fragile. Unfortunately, I say it quickly in my book when my father died the next day, really like a sentence scrolled across my head, this
I
death is
wasn't
a
going to
gift.
tell this bit to the.
Sorry.
That's a big
Did,
part for the listener.
did
Yeah.
I? What? Just the part, I mean, my father died. Is that the spoiler?
No,
No.
you're what you did the next day.
Well, mainly it's not so much the next day. It's more that I see death as a gift. I see
Yeah.
talent as a gift. I see opportunity. The whole old. What is the origin of this saying? I'm surprised I haven't Googled it. But what kills you doesn't make only makes you stronger.
Yeah.
So no, I have zero victim, zero complaint about anything. Nothing made me weaker. Everything made me stronger. But it takes time to get all the magic bits of that. It's Easter weekend this past weekend, and I cried like a baby in my 14-year-old daughter's arms over the death of my father. And why? As she held me, I explained, crying is good, River. That means I'm feeling this. That means I'm healing this because it took me that long to really like talk to my family about what was so upsetting when about death in general, but my father's death in particular, and that I had avoided it and I did not mourn it properly be out of fear. So like, but that's an example of nothing made me weaker. That I made myself too strong for too long, but then I got to beautifully break open and be wounded when I could be. I knew to when I could be wounded, which is now. I was just not, I had to protect myself from things that devastating at the time. So grief takes time, healing takes time, and everyone has to go on their own pace. But yeah, so it all made me stronger. But it definitely, it's a journey. It doesn't mean I got lots of work I'm still doing on myself every day.
And that's the ongoing journey. We never reach
Yeah.
the destination. And I suppose that version of you, and I say it with full respect, wasn't ready, were you, for that in life? No one can really be ready for what happens.
Exactly.
Um,
I mean, just like what's so interesting is that, my story was always my story. I met this musical mentor at 19, Billy Corgan, that inspired me to pick up the bass. And then within a year of owning my own bass, Billy recommends me to Courtney. I replace a deceased bass player in the wake of this giant rock god's suicide. And I am 22, standing on the Reading Festival stage in front of 65,000 people. It's my seventh concert ever. That's always just been my story. I
wow.
understand that to be my
Yeah.
story. It wasn't until I was writing it and having an editor reflect it, or me even just speaking about it with people who know me now as a middle-aged mother, will say, "That's crazy. How did you, how did that happen? How did you get through it? How did you not fall into drugs or terror or whatever?" I don't know. It's just the way I did it. But I think like it's like I just did life. I don't actually writing the book is a perfect example. I wrote the book and then I was sitting 6 months later in an audio booth reading my book to myself for 8 days, and I got my first like shudder of terror of, wait, I'm going to put this out? Other people are going to hear my voice reading this and my story of
So,
orgasm and death is
yeah.
going to go out into the world. I must have some like weird cool set of blinders. I wrote the book in all honesty with no edit. Didn't care what anyone else would think. Didn't think about what anyone else would
But then
happen.
you heard your own voice.
And then then when I read it, I thought this is insane. Who Who does this? Who tells everybody everything? I don't know.
I
But
do
you
it every week on this podcast. I just give you the chance to say it before me.
know, yeah, I don't know.
Could
Anyway,
could
so
you put your finger on it, do you think, and say what it was that actually helped you survive? Like looking back now with hindsight, do you know what it was? Because everyone else could have crumbled, everyone else could have
right.
lost it, like you said, gone to drugs, gone to suicide. People
Yeah.
around you took that method to try and cope. But
Well, I think
looking now,
that's why, the introduction to the book is through the Looking Glass, which is me standing on that Reading Festival stage.
yeah,
But chapter one, two, and three are my mother, my father, and the city that raised me. I entirely credit my parents and my city for why I was able to venture into such a wild, tumultuous expedition in music around the world. Like the values, the stability, even though they were wild counterculture freaks and it, the stability of my family and my beautiful city that nurtured me to be a dreamy artist that believed that I had purpose in the world in art. I credit that entirely. I also think I came into the world with some things that equipped me. Um, I can also get into astrology and tell you I'm a Pisces, which is the last sign of the
me
zodiac.
too.
Okay, great. Which means we've walked in everyone's shoes, and this is kind of why everything's like, oh, of course, everything is crazy. I've already been here before and 10,000 times before.
God, you're inside
So,
my head now. That's too close. That's a bit too raw. I'm like,
well,
wow.
that's telling in the book. Do you remember when I meet Billy Corgan in Vermont and we discover
Yes,
that we're both born in St. Patrick's Day and these like weird like light bulbs go off
both of you are
all in the
clicking, and
same
yeah,
and all in the same moment. I quote a hidden track on Gish. Once we say you're a Pisces, I say, I know. You don't want feelings, motherfucking feelings. I know. And he at that moment said, wow, you're the first person who's ever quoted me. And I think that's what officially makes me the first Pumpkins fan ever. But the Piscean nature is a real thing too in my book, according to my life and the people I've met. So all of those things is how that happened. But I always say that now we're getting really deep, and anyone who doesn't believe in the stars, don't forgive me, but open your mind. Here's the thing. The Leo rising and Aries moon of my Pisces nature is why I am not a dead heroin addict. So go figure that out, everybody. I've
that's
got fire to counterbalance the overwhelmed feelings.
where do we go from this? I kind of feel like saying, how did you rebuild after that? Because if you've done it, that's hope for anyone else.
Yes, well, I also
You're
hope
living
that
proof, aren't you?
I hope that this book, as for other listeners who might not love astrology, but who know maybe someone in your family who's an addict, maybe someone who's had to live with an addict, maybe someone who's died from addiction, being a person who's in and around addicts. My father was an alcoholic, a happy one, I always say, which is true, but that's even more important for people in the UK to hear. Happy alcoholics are still alcoholics. There is still a world within you that is seeking to exist, escape. So, and that's all
It's
fine.
still the same disease if it's happy or it's not, isn't it? It's still the same.
Yeah, and my book has a lot of addiction stories as the outsider non-addict in the room with the addicts over and over. And I really, one of my many, many, many layers of things I wanted to get through in this book in tandem, because I wanted to prioritize quite a few things, but I had to make sure I could weave them intricately throughout. But addiction and living with addiction and surviving, living with addicts and surviving addiction in general is a big part of my book.
Looking at the whole 90s scene, what's kind of the biggest myth, do you think? What do people completely get wrong about it that still kind of not frustrates you, but you just still can't understand today why people aren't talking about it or people are so surprised about it? Is there stuff that people really get wrong that kind of,
Well, it's obviously and very micro to me is Courtney. It's that
yeah,
you understand, like, there's still apparently, according to teenage friends, that if you start writing Courtney Love in a Google search, one of the first things that comes in is killed her husband. Like,
Jesus.
that is how fundamentally they got Courtney wrong. So that's one thing I know that I've tried to set the record straight in this book. And I watched how many layers of that went into play. It
Yeah.
wasn't just like one or two haters, it was a society at large. So that's one major wrong. And I guess because I was felt so blessed by the music industry, I never complain, but I do know that people thought that 90s was a woman's empowerment time, and yes, it was ish. There were like more female bass players in bands and then lots. But by the time I left Hole in 99, we were yet again the only women on the male-dominated rock stage. So I know that there's an illusion that there was like a lot of female power in the 90s because of the like the world of Sex and the City and Oprah Winfrey, and that's when they invented supermodels and
Yeah.
Lilith Fair, and there was all this like woman power. But in fact, it was, and Courtney's story illustrates it, of incredibly sexist, horrendous, patriarchal, ridiculous society. And that I am not looking for high fives, but we were doing radical things. Like it was not normal for women to be putting themselves out there like that. You know, there's still women in my generation that had to choose sort of like assume that being a mother is to have to lose yourself. Like there's so much old school, we have come a long way in the last 25 years, but we also have pedophile rapists running countries. So there's still a lot of issues with women's rights. So what I am very upset about is that the 90s potential for true feminist revolution did not happen. It, in fact, possibly created the beast that we
Yeah.
have now. Yeah.
Were you conscious during that, the kind of the women in the industry and the statement that was being made, were you conscious of how you were being perceived, or was it only later that it became clear?
Well, it started to feel good, for example, when there was so many women in music. Like I remember there being a moment, it was like Madonna, Courtney, and Tina Turner were all on the cover of Rolling Stone. And it was like cool to see, wow, there's like a few generations now of powerful women that are. So there was this illusion that things were cool, but I remember realizing that, for example, a radical revolutionary like Courtney, who did everything a good girl was not supposed to do, which is why I was such a great right wing, right hand woman for her, whatever. I
Not
was a
right
great,
wing, yeah,
oh,
that
what is it
no.
called? Right hand woman for her.
Right
Is that
hand, like we would say like right hand man, right hand woman,
yes.
yeah.
So I was a good, helpful counterbalance to her because I was like, well, if the nice Canadian girl is okay to hang out with this wild
Yeah.
beast, she must be okay. So I feel like what's interesting is that what we needed was Courtney Revolution, the fuck, 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 fuck you. I see what you're doing. Like she was too ahead of her time and too punk for people to grasp at that time. And so I'm a little upset that didn't lead, because now is when one of the reasons why we rekindled our relationship was after the 2016 election, when I thought we were going to have our first female president and we did not.
We all did. We all were
Actually,
sat there thinking, this is it.
exactly. I actually, one of the first things that came to my mind is, where is Courtney now? Oh, wow. This is gonna be bad.
Yeah.
So that's when I started reaching back out to her, because I remember very clearly when Lilith Fair started exploding, and we sat on the sidelines in our own glory, but we realized, well, we're not going to be invited to that. And that
No.
to me was a failure of the women's movement at that time. Is, oh, amazing. You're doing like a happy women's festival. And I'm glad for like, the lesbian, queer, hippie women, that was a beautiful thing in itself, of course, but we, Courtney and us whole, were too dangerous for that. And that was a missed opportunity to be actually rageful. But, here we are. Maybe it can come back. I mean, obviously, women power in music is everywhere, but I would like some more rage. Why is only Billie Eilish standing up to billionaires and changing the way she functions her tour machine? Like I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I was literally going to say, I think it's genuinely shifted now in music, and it's you said there's not enough of it and there's not enough rage against it. But I think that unfortunately the patterns are still there. There's been improvements, but there's still
Yeah.
stuff that really, really frustrates
Yeah, and
everything
like
about it.
people talk about, I mean, I'm so proud of the women. I end my book, in the fast forward to the Grammys when like Taylor Swift, Olivia, like every female, like unbelievable. Beyonce, it's
Hayley Williams,
it's
absolutely.
huge, huge what we've got going on in music, but my insider outsider complaint is it's still the machine. And,
Yeah.
until we dismantle the machine and make it work in different ways, we still are part of a big problem that is obviously failing us and controlling people's minds. And yeah, there we go.
Was it as wild as people think, or was it worse overall? Like when you look back at it and you're reflecting and you've got all these incredible images to kind of help paint the picture of what it was like of a as a 90s scene, was there moments that you felt it had gone too far or that you still can't
No,
let
I
go of? It's something that's too stuck within
no.
you?
No, I have personally combed through all of it. And when like I was describing my origin story with Hole and how it's
Yeah.
normal then, later it seemed crazy. A lot of the fun, kind of even just my interludes in the book with like backstage at the Versace fashion show, or there's things that happened that do seem absurd, surreal, decadent, um, that I guess at the time I was walking through the park. It's just the way it goes. Platters of cocaine and boys being offered to you. It's the way it goes. But in hindsight, it's not that, I actually just think that I'm a maximalist anyway. Like I really am a bring it on person. Although I am diplomatic slash sane and all the things that maybe are a counterbalance. I'm not chaos, but I'm maximalist. I really, really want the world to push. I'm not a safe, risk-free. I think the only way to live life is to its fullest and to question absolutely everything that is happening every day.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm not going to like just coast into the future. That's not the way it's going to work for the world, actually. You have to like work at life really hard. And I really admire the decadent extremes of my generation and of the way we lived as a group of makers and creatives. And I think we need more of that.
The lead up to this interview with you today, I do as much research as I can. I read the book again, I listen to music, I go for long walks, and I watch on YouTube other videos that you've done and just kind of get the best flavor of the structure that people have gone with and the questions they're asking you. And I know that on a press tour, there's going to be a lot of the same questions like, do you still speak to Courtney? Is there going to be a whole reunion? All the usual textbook questions. And I wanted to ask you something that I felt, and I don't think you've been asked it. So I was trying to just end today with something
Okay.
refreshing for you. And what would people be surprised by of something that you didn't do? So the book is all about what you did, all about the feelings, all about the live scene, all about the pumpkins, all about Hole, Courtney, death. But was there something that you consciously avoided? Was there
Yeah.
something,
Yeah, two things. One is heroin, and two is sex with strangers. Highly
that's
recommend avoiding both of these things.
especially at the same time?
Exactly. Yes.
So was there that pressure, do you think, that you had to live up to the scene?
Oh
Because
no.
no,
No, that's just not the way I'm built. No.
no,
I mean, I can imagine, I hate to say it, but I mean, part of what I say about my parents being so fearlessly themselves
yeah,
is even though I was shy and all, I was not trying to impress anybody. I just was trying to live a good life that reflected my truth and my desires, and I've never felt concerned about what other people think or needing to live up to anything. I think that that's also a testament to my bohemian parents, where they never told me I had to be successful. I could have been a struggling librarian and they'd be proud of me. They just wanted me to be happy. And that's what I watched them do is just do them and know who they are. That's all I've ever expected from myself. And I don't not care what people think, but I'm certainly not going to be moving through life thinking about what other people think. No.
And isn't that important? Because one of the questions I asked the big bands, the big actors, the directors is, were your parents supportive? Because if you turn around and say, Mom, Dad, I'm going to go and join a
Yeah.
band, they're going to be like, fucking hell, please, can you get a real job? Like, this is
Right.
terrifying. Like, you do realize that only so many bands or so many actors get picked. Like, this is a
Yeah.
world of just constant comparison and battling and numbers. So the fact your parents were like, go do what you want. If you end up working in a library or you go and work in a shop or you become the biggest female bassist of all
Yeah.
time, it's all
They were literally
supporting.
great, great. Yeah. And when I
Magical.
was offered that, this is also in my book, and I did say no, is my father actually was one to help me reconsider. And my mother was already the most fearless frontline feminist interviewing Zappa and Cohen and
I was
everyone at
very,
the
very
time.
envious of the
So like,
interviews. Yeah.
that's a great way of explaining why I guess I don't cave to the pressure is that anyone who came from parents who said, "Oh yeah, good luck with that, loser," you know,
Yeah.
like
We're
someone
going to
like
trip you up on the way. Yeah.
yeah, like Courtney and Billy are both that, are both people, which is why I have so much compassion and why I think they needed me as a friend and a supporter of theirs, is I don't have what they, of course, how can you not want to be loved by your parents and have your parents believe in you? Believe that and I say this across the board to everyone. And what is my parent tip that I learned from my own upbringing? Don't tell your children who they are. Let them tell you. That is that. Like that, if the world could be more like that, and that's about accepting others that are not your control. You don't have control over anything and anyone. And don't try it, United States of America.
So is this a boundary that you have always held on to and still do today?
Well, I mean, I guess it's just what I'm made of. I don't even
Yeah.
consciously think of it unless someone like you asks me. It's just that I
That's
never
so
realized.
important.
I
That's
never
so
realized until
important.
I was writing this book and people were asking me this kind of question. I had a
Oh,
writer's
damn, I thought I
coach.
was the only one asking
No,
it.
no,
Damn
no,
it.
no, no. Well, what did you actually ask me?
I think my wording was probably something. Was there anything that
No,
you actually avoided or
no, the
that you
question,
didn't do that
no,
people be
that's
surprised?
different.
Yeah.
That you asked a question, no one's asked me, and I said heroin and sex with strangers. I
Yes.
already answered that. What I'm telling you that I have encountered more is
Yeah.
this, why were you able to avoid the pressure or temptation and keep your head on your shoulders when shit was chaotic? And it's something to do with calm and chaos, as well as believing that I don't have to prove myself. I just have to take care of myself and be honest and be kind. That's the other thing is I have that going for me. As I've explained, my whole career happened because I was a fan and I apologized for a thrown beer bottle. That is good positive reinforcement. That means that I have learned that by being myself and telling people that I love them and by being polite gets you somewhere. And if I can put that story into the world and hope and inspire that people will follow those kinds of rules, I've done my job.
That for me feels like the perfect end to this because I want people, if they take anything from today, that final statement is something that if you can do that and try and just incorporate it into your day and it's successful, no one can kind of tear you to pieces because you're just doing what's right for everyone.
And imagine the ripple effect it could have on the world if everyone just worked hard. Fine. Yeah. Yeah.
What I do, Melissa, and this is my very final question for you. Every guest that comes on, every single person, whatever walk of life they've been on, as the episode is all edited and ready for the world to listen to on Spotify or YouTube or all these different avenues they can hear us talk today, there's a piece of music that plays out at the very end of the episode.
Okay.
Every single episode's outro music is different because the guest that's been on has chosen a song that means a lot to them personally to be the outro music. So no episode is the same.
Okay. So what's
No pressure.
interesting, it's inspired. No, no, it's inspired by right here, right now. I'm in Brighton.
Yeah.
There's a song called Right Here, Right Now by Fatboy Slim.
Yeah.
And Norman Cook is waiting for me at the seaside, 20 feet away from me, to walk along the ocean with me.
Tell him to come on the podcast.
So Right Here, Right Now by Fatboy Slim is what we're gonna ride out on because I name check him and it in the book
Yeah.
at the moment at the end of the millennium when I saw a dance tent at Glastonbury and I saw what the future could be, which is a world where maybe technology makes you more creative in the arts and music, and you can make real art out of some kind of technology, where a non-ego rock star can make thousands of people move. Someone who is faceless and happens to also be a bass player can make the crowd move into themselves and not by worshiping someone on a stage. So we are going to listen to that song
God,
in
what a
honor.
pumping song to end in. Some people pick Leonard Cohen or Jeff Buckley, and we're like, boof, boof, boof.
This
You know,
is because it's literally right here, right now, where I am in Brighton and
I can't
Norman
believe you're
Cook.
actually just about to now go and see him, and you'll be like, I've just mentioned you because your music's going to be played on the podcast.
Correct. I'm going to bring him up. I'm going to have him come up on the stage on my Brighton event tonight to just talk about that passage with me.
Wow. And then you're in Manchester tomorrow, which will be magical.
Yes. Wow. The legacy of music in that city. Yes. I'm
Have you got
preparing.
anyone you're bringing up? Are you bringing Liam
I
Gallagher up
don't
or
know. I don't
Stone
know anyone
Roses?
in Manchester. I don't know anyone there. I
No.
wish. I just know the history thing
Because I
that's
can't talk about, oh, go and get your ticket now for Manchester because it's sold
yeah.
out.
No,
And
exactly. Everything is sold out, actually. Every single city I've been to, they've added
I
two,
tried to get
three.
a bloody ticket at Manchester. You're telling the
Yeah.
person that, yeah,
But
it's,
you're coming.
I
Yes.
can't.
Yes, of course you can. What do you mean? As my guest?
Well, if I can, that'd be awesome. But
Of
they've told me
course
I
you
can't.
can. I have no friends in Manchester. I'm inviting you and your friends to my show. You can have 5 tickets.
Oh my
Get
Lord.
a babysitter. Of
I might hold you to this, so I'll go for
course,
your.
no problem. No, 100%. And bring friends.
Thank you. I will see you
Thank
tomorrow
you.
night. Are you signing
Okay,
books
great.
at the event if I
I
come and
am.
say hello? Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yes, of
I'll
course.
make the trip. It's about 2.5 hours drive. I'll be there.
What? That's far. Okay.
It's fine.
Actually, that's not. That's what New York City to my upstate town is, and I sometimes go in for shows. Goodbye.
I knew love would tear you apart. Oh, and I knew the darkest secret of your heart.
So there it is. There's my episode with me and Melissa. What a great guest. So well spoken. A great in-depth interview that was kind of testing for me because I didn't go down the normal pattern of just talking about the music career and then gigs and how you kind of got to see the career kind of get bigger. It was more about the book and her kind of way of healing, and I really felt like it was a bit different for Mark and me, but in a good way, and I loved every minute of it. Like I said, I was really lucky to go and actually see her reading the first chapter of the book. She did a signing and a bit of a Q&A with Terry Wright in Manchester for the release of Even the Good Girls Will Cry. This book is absolutely magnificent. Please go and invest that money of yours on a copy and you'll not regret it. I think if you look online, there's a signed copy still in the UK, but it's just a beautiful book, some great images, and just an amazing, truthful, healing story. And I can't wait to hopefully have Melissa back on the episode later in the year when she's going to be releasing another book of loads of photos and artwork. So it's going to be crazy. But like I said, this episode's been a long time coming for me, a dream guest, and I hope you guys at home have all enjoyed it as much as me. As always, guys, if you can take the kind of few minutes to share the episode, go onto your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever you use, share this episode on your story. So many people will see it. So many people will then recognize this artwork. They'll see Melissa and be like, ooh, they hit play. And before you know it, they're listening to Mark and me every week. And all it took was you just to hit a couple of buttons with your finger or thumb on your phone or iPad or laptop. And that really goes a long way. Remember, I'm an independent one-man podcaster, so all those little shares go a long way. I do also have a Patreon account. If you can go on there, I gave all my money so far for this year away to cancer research, thanks to Dustin from Thrice. So if you want to support me on there, Literally, you get a welcome pack including stickers, badges, and eventually I'll be doing some episodes that are exclusive called the Lost Tapes just for people that subscribe on there. So it's a real benefit, and like I said, all the money is going to charity. It's unbelievable for you guys out there to support this, but I wanted this year to really go out there and do my bit for the people in need. Also, before I go, let's give a shout out to the two sponsors of Mark and Me. Firstly, Richer Sounds. If you're in the market for anything to do with audio and visual, go on their website richersounds.com or visit any of their high street stores. And lastly, Vice Press, the best poster company in the world. All their prints are licensed from the best artists you'll ever meet or know. And trust me, everything on there you'll want to buy. And the good news is, if you use the discount code MarkandMe10, that's the number 10, you'll get 10% off your purchase. Thanks to us and them being these partners. And trust me, those guys are wonderful. Right, guys, I'm going to go now and just say thanks to Melissa for taking the time to come on the podcast. She hasn't done huge amounts of press in the UK, so I feel very, very privileged. It was great to meet you. It was great to hang out backstage. And you are genuinely just an absolute wonderful soul. And guys, thank you for listening. You know I never take this for granted. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until we speak again in about a week's time, look after yourself, go and read the book Even the Good Girls Will Cry, and I'll speak to you all very soon.